Michael Carter swirled the amber liquid in his crystal tumbler, watching the firelight dance through the expensive whiskey. 8 years of freedom, 8 years of success, 8 years since he'd watched his wife's body sink beneath the dark waters of Evergreen Lake. The grandfather clock in his hallway chimed 9 times, its deep resonance filling the empty spaces of his mansion. Michael took another sip, savoring the burn. The doorbell rang, unexpected and jarring in the quiet evening. He wasn't expecting anyone. With slight irritation, he set down his glass and walked to the door, assuming it was a delivery or perhaps an ambitious realtor. He opened the door without checking the peephole, and his world stopped. Emma stood on his doorstep. His wife, Emma, the woman he had killed 8 years ago. The life Michael had built after Emma disappeared was nothing short of extraordinary. He'd sold their modest lakeside home within months, telling neighbors and friends that the memories were too painful. With his tech company already successful and growing, he moved to Boston's affluent Beacon Hill neighborhood, where neighbors minded their own business and asked few questions. His wealth multiplied through a series of ventures, some legitimate, many not, the same illegal dealings Emma had discovered before her disappearance. The investigation into Emma's vanishing lasted nearly 2 years. Her car found abandoned at a shopping mall, her credit cards unused, her passport still in their safe. Detective James Ryan had interviewed Michael a dozen times, eyes filled with suspicion but hands tied without evidence. "People don't just vanish, Mr. Carter," Ryan had said during their last interview. "Someday, somehow, the truth comes out." Michael had nodded sympathetically while silently celebrating the detective's reassignment to another district. Now Emma, impossible, dead Emma, stood before him, looking almost exactly as she had that night at the lake, except for a few new lines around her eyes and slightly different hair. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Emma asked, her voice so achingly familiar it sent shivers down Michael's spine. Without waiting for an answer, she stepped past him into the foyer, her shoulder brushing against his chest as though they'd lived together in this house for years. "Beautiful place," she commented, glancing around at the vaulted ceilings and marble floors. "Much nicer than our old house. I always knew you had expensive taste." She slipped off her coat and hung it on the rack by the door, the exact rack where they used to hang their coats in the lake house. Michael remained frozen by the door, his mind racing through possibilities. A look-alike? A hallucination? Some elaborate prank? But the woman moved through his house with the same grace as Emma, tilting her head the same way when something caught her interest. "You still drink Macallan," she observed, noticing his glass by the fireplace. "Some things never change," she smiled. Emma's smile, the one that used to make his heart race for entirely different reasons than the fear now coursing through him. "The kitchen's this way, right?" she asked, turning left down the hallway. Michael followed in stunned silence. She shouldn't know the layout of a house she'd never visited. Yet she walked directly to the kitchen without hesitation, opened the correct cabinet for glasses, and poured herself some water. "You're still keeping your spare keys in the fake rock by the side door," she said casually. "You really should be more creative with that. And I see you're still using my mother's maiden name as your password hint." She took a sip of water, watching him over the rim of the glass. "The small scar on your back from when you fell off that boat in Cape Cod? It's faded, but still there, isn't it?" Michael's mouth went dry. These were details only Emma would know. "The old antique desk from my grandmother. You kept it. I saw it in your office upstairs." She set down her glass. "Do you still have the safe, the one from the lake house, the one hidden behind the painting in your study?" "You can't be here," Michael finally found his voice, though it came out as little more than a whisper. "You're dead?" Emma, or whoever she was, raised an eyebrow. "Is that what you were going to say, Michael? That I'm dead?" Michael's hands began to shake. He gripped the edge of the kitchen counter to steady himself. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to sound authoritative despite the tremor in his voice. "Don't be ridiculous, Michael. It's me, Emma." She stepped closer, and he caught the scent of her perfume, the same floral scent Emma always wore. "I know you're surprised to see me. That's understandable." "This isn't possible," Michael muttered, half to himself. He clearly remembered that night at the lake, the argument, his hands around Emma's throat, the moment her struggling stopped, the weight of her body as he rowed to the deepest part of the lake, the splash as she sank beneath the dark water, weighed down by chains. She couldn't have survived. It was impossible. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said with a small laugh. "Maybe you need another drink." Over the next 3 days, Michael became convinced he was losing his mind. Each morning, there was no sign of Emma in his house. But small things were different. A coffee mug moved to a different cupboard. Books rearranged on shelves. His computer screen left on when he was certain he'd turned it off. Then he found Emma's perfume in his bathroom cabinet, a bottle of the expensive French scent she always wore. He threw it in the trash, only to find it back on the shelf the next morning. His phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "You can't run forever." When he returned from a business meeting, he found his desk drawers slightly ajar, papers rearranged. Someone had been searching through his things. On his pillow that night, he found a single long blonde hair, Emma's shade exactly. He installed new security cameras throughout the house. The footage showed nothing unusual until Tuesday night at 2:18 a.m., when a figure walked across his living room, clearly visible, then suddenly vanishing mid-step. He watched the recording 17 times, his heart pounding harder with each viewing. Michael began his own investigation, desperate to understand what was happening. He spent hours online searching for information about Emma's family that he might not know. Had she mentioned a sister, a cousin who looked like her? He found nothing he didn't already know. He tried to find cases of mistaken identity or professional impersonators. Nothing fit what he was experiencing. He reviewed the police reports from Emma's disappearance, obtained through a contact who owed him a favor. Detective Ryan had been thorough, interviewing everyone in their lives. The report mentioned Emma's younger sister Lisa, who had been studying abroad when Emma disappeared. Michael had never met her. Emma had described their relationship as complicated. The file included no photo of Lisa. That night, he reviewed his security footage again. The cameras captured Emma walking through his home at 1:42 IEM, pausing to look directly at a camera before disappearing down a hallway. The next camera in sequence showed an empty hallway. She had vanished between cameras, something physically impossible. The next morning, Michael discovered someone had been in his home office. Files were slightly displaced. His computer had been accessed, and one of the drawers he always kept locked was slightly ajar. Inside was a folder containing offshore account information, evidence of his financial crimes. Someone had been looking through it. As he left for work, his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, called out to him, "Your wife is such a lovely woman. So nice to finally meet her after all this time." Before he could respond, she added, "She was telling me about your anniversary trip next month." Paris sounds wonderful. Michael had no planned trip to Paris, no wife to take there. That evening, returning to his bedroom, he found a photograph on his pillow, an old picture of him and Emma from their wedding day. The photo had been stored in a box he kept in the attic, untouched for years. On the back, written in what looked like Emma's handwriting, were the words, "Till death do us part." Emma began appearing more frequently, materializing in rooms when Michael least expected it. She would appear sitting in his study when he entered, or standing in the kitchen making coffee, always acting as though nothing was unusual. "Why did you sell the lake house so quickly after I disappeared?" she asked one evening, appearing suddenly in his bedroom doorway. "Were you afraid they'd search the lake more thoroughly?" "You're not real," Michael insisted, backing away. "You can't be real." "The police report said you seemed genuinely distraught when you reported me missing," she continued as if he hadn't spoken. "Detective Ryan wrote that you were either truly devastated or the best actor he'd ever seen. Which was it, Michael?" She would vanish when he turned away, sometimes mid-conversation. He began to doubt his own sanity. Was he hallucinating? Was guilt finally catching up to him after 8 years? On Friday morning, Michael found a small piece of paper tucked under his coffee mug. On it was a series of numbers: 7:22, 11:30, 86. The handwriting was undeniably Emma's, with her distinctive way of writing sevens with a cross through the stem. He stared at the numbers, a cold realization washing over him. This was the combination to their old safe. The small, hidden safe they'd kept in the lake house behind a painting in the study. the safe where Emma had kept her jewelry, important documents, and personal items. Michael had emptied the safe before selling the house, or so he thought. Had he missed something? Was there something in that safe that could connect him to Emma's death? Later that day, he received a call from a realtor he didn't know. "Mr. Carter, I'm calling because you expressed interest in 142 Lakeshore Drive." It was his old house at Evergreen Lake. "The current owners are moving out suddenly, and it's back on the market. Would you like to schedule a viewing?" Michael hadn't expressed interest in the house. Someone else had, using his name. That night, Michael drove the 2 hours to Evergreen Lake, his mind racing. The lakeside community was quiet in the off-season, most houses dark and unoccupied. His old home stood silent, a for sale sign swinging gently in the evening breeze. He parked down the street and waited until midnight. The house was empty. The realtor had mentioned the owners had already moved out. Using the knowledge of his old home, he found the spare key hidden under a loose brick in the garden wall, exactly where he and Emma used to keep it. The house was different inside, new paint, new furniture, but the layout was the same. He moved silently through the rooms until he reached the study. The painting that had once concealed the safe was gone, replaced by a large mirror, but the safe was still embedded in the wall behind it. With shaking hands, Michael entered the combination 7, 22, 11/30, 86, Emma's birthday, their anniversary date, and the year they met. The safe clicked open. Inside the safe, Michael found a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. He recognized the journal immediately. It was Emma's. She had always kept a diary, something he had teased her about. He opened it and began reading the final entries, dated from the weeks before her death. Michael came home agitated again today. The Westbrook deal must be going badly. He took a call in his office and was shouting something about covering tracks and moving money. "I'm almost certain now that what I found on his laptop wasn't a mistake." The entries grew more disturbing. "Found documents today confirming my suspicions. Michael has been laundering money through shell companies, millions of dollars. This explains the sudden influx of cash, the new car, the talks about a bigger house. Blood money." The final entry sent a chill down Michael's spine. "I confronted Michael tonight. It went badly. He threatened me, said no one would believe me without proof. I'm taking copies of everything to Lisa tomorrow. If anything happens to me, Lisa knows what to do." Lisa, Emma's sister. The name from the police report. The last page had a handwritten note. "If you're reading this, something has happened to me. Lisa has everything. She knows the truth." A knock at the front door made Michael jump. He quickly pocketed the journal and USB drive, closed the safe, and replaced the mirror. Through the front window, he saw a sedan parked in the driveway. A man stood at the door, illuminated by the porch light. Detective James Ryan. Michael slipped out the back door and circled around to his car, heart pounding. How had Ryan found him here? What did he know? The next evening, Ryan showed up at Michael's Boston home unannounced. "Mr. Carter," Ryan said when Michael reluctantly opened the door. "Sorry to drop by without calling first." "What can I do for you, detective?" Michael asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just wanted to let you know we've received some new information about your wife's disappearance." Ryan's eyes never left Michael's face. "Evergreen Lake is being drained next month for dam repairs. Thought you might be interested, given the circumstances." Michael felt as though the floor was tilting beneath him. "It's been 8 years, detective. Why are you still pursuing this?" Ryan smiled thinly. "Some cases stay with you. This is one of them." He handed Michael his card. "Call me if you remember anything else about that night. Anything at all." After Ryan left, Michael heard voices coming from his guest bedroom. He crept silently down the hallway, listening at the door. "Needs to be tonight," he heard Emma saying in a hushed voice. "He knows something's wrong. He visited the lake house." A pause, as though she was listening to someone on the phone. "I don't care. Lisa needs to know," Ryan says. "They're draining the lake next month." Another pause. "Yes, he still has the journal. I saw him reading it." Michael's blood ran cold. She had just called herself Lisa, not Emma, and she was talking about Emma in the third person. He pushed the door open suddenly, but the room was empty. The window was closed, the bed undisturbed. On the nightstand sat a photo he'd never seen before. Emma with her arm around a younger woman who looked remarkably similar to her. Sisters. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to the night Emma died. They had been at the lake house. Emma had confronted him about the documents she'd found, the evidence of his money laundering and fraud. She'd threatened to go to the authorities. "I know everything, Michael," she had said, her voice steady despite her fear. "The Westbrook deal, the offshore accounts, all of it. I've made copies. I've given them to someone for safekeeping." He hadn't believed her. Emma was bluffing. She had to be. No one knew about his dealings. He had been so careful. "Who?" he had demanded. "Who did you tell?" "It doesn't matter," she'd replied. "If anything happens to me, everything goes to the FBI." He had lunged at her then, his hands finding her throat. He hadn't meant to kill her, just scare her, make her tell him who she'd given the documents to. But once he started squeezing, something in him snapped. The threat she posed, the years of work she could destroy with a single phone call, he couldn't let that happen. When she stopped struggling, he had panicked, wrapped her body in a tarp, taken the boat out to the deepest part of the lake. The splash as her weighted body hit the water still echoed in his nightmares. He never found out if she had been bluffing about the evidence. Until now. The next day, Michael followed Emma when she left his house. She drove to a small coffee shop downtown and sat at an outdoor table. A few minutes later, Detective Ryan joined her. They spoke intently, heads close together, occasionally glancing at documents spread between them. From his vantage point across the street, Michael could see that the woman wasn't quite Emma. Now that he was looking for differences, he noticed them. A slightly different profile, a different way of gesturing. But the resemblance was uncanny. This had to be Lisa, Emma's sister. They were working together. The haunting, the mysterious appearances, the psychological warfare, it was all part of a plan to make him confess. Ryan hadn't given up on the case. He'd just been waiting for the right moment, the right evidence. And now they were closing in. When Emma, or rather Lisa, returned to the house, Michael confronted her in the kitchen. "I know who you are," he said flatly. "You're not Emma. You're her sister, Lisa." For a moment, she looked startled. Then her expression changed, becoming more direct, less the ethereal presence she'd been playing. "Took you long enough," she said, her voice subtly different now, still similar to Emma's but with its own cadence. 8 years I've waited for this moment. 8 years planning how to make you pay for what you did to my sister." "You have no proof of anything," Michael said, though his confidence was waning. Lisa pulled out her phone and showed him a text message dated 8 years ago. "If you don't hear from me by tomorrow, go to the safe. Combination 7/22/11/30/86. Michael knows. I'm scared. Love you, Em." "This was the last message my sister ever sent," Lisa said, her eyes hard. "It came at 10:42 p.m. on April 15th. By midnight, she was dead. You killed her." "You can't prove that," Michael said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually, I can," Lisa replied. She pulled out Emma's journal. "I have my own copy. Emma mailed me copies of everything before she confronted you. The journal, the financial records, everything. I've spent 8 years building a case against you, Michael. Detective Ryan has been helping me for the last 3. If you had enough evidence, you would have gone to the police years ago," Michael countered. "Evidence of financial crimes, yes, but murder?" Lisa shook her head. "We needed more. We needed a body. Or," she locked eyes with him, "a confession." She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a small device strapped to her wrist. "Everything you've said since I arrived has been recorded. Everything you'll say from now on will be too." She looked different now, that she wasn't pretending to be Emma. Stronger, more determined, but the resemblance was still striking. "I had surgery," she said, noticing his stare. "Subtle changes to look more like her, enough to make you question your sanity when you saw me in the shadows or caught a glimpse in a mirror." Lisa sat down at the kitchen counter, suddenly seeming much more at ease in his home. "I've been living here, you know, not all the time, but enough. When you're at work, sometimes when you're sleeping, learning your routines, your habits, planting little seeds of doubt." Michael felt violated, angry, and, though he wouldn't admit it, afraid. "That's breaking and entering." Lisa laughed. Add it to my charges. Worth it to put you away for killing my sister? The disappearing on the security cameras? Michael asked. Loops and blind spots. Ryan has friends in security. It's amazing what people will do when they believe they're helping catch a murderer. She leaned forward. The real question is, what will you do now, Michael? Your perfectly constructed life is falling apart. The lake is being drained. Emma's body will be found. The evidence of your financial crimes is overwhelming. Michael glanced toward the drawer where he kept a gun. Don't bother, Lisa said calmly. I removed it weeks ago. And, as I mentioned, everything here is being recorded and streamed directly to Detective Ryan. Michael's mind raced, calculating options, escapes, explanations. The financial crimes might put him away for years, but murder would mean life. Or worse. What do you want? He finally asked. The truth, Lisa replied simply. A confession. Tell me exactly what happened that night. Tell me why you killed my sister. Give her friends and family the closure they deserve. And if I do, what then? Ryan believes the DA would consider a plea deal for the murder charge if you cooperate fully with both Emma's case and the financial crimes investigation. You'd still serve time, but you might see daylight again someday. Michael considered his options. The evidence against him was mounting. The lake would be drained. They would find Emma's body, the journals, the financial records. It was too much. Think carefully, Lisa continued. This is your only chance for leniency. Tell the truth now or face the maximum penalties when they find her body next month. It was an accident, Michael began, the lie coming automatically. We argued, things got heated. Stop, Lisa interrupted. No more lies. I want the truth, or there's no deal. Michael fell silent, weighing his diminishing options. The walls were closing in, 8 years of freedom about to end. Perhaps a partial truth would satisfy her. She threatened to expose my business dealings, he admitted. She'd found documents, evidence of financial improprieties. She said she'd made copies, given them to someone. I didn't believe her. Emma wasn't the type to follow through on threats. Lisa's expression hardened. Keep going. I just wanted to scare her, make her tell me who she'd given the information to. I grabbed her, maybe too hard. Things escalated. You strangled her, Lisa said flatly. The medical examiner will confirm it when they find her body. Strangulation isn't an accident, Michael. It's deliberate. It takes time. Michael looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I panicked afterward, took the boat out to the deepest part of the lake, weighed her down and... He couldn't finish the sentence. And dropped my sister's body into the lake like garbage, Lisa completed, her voice tight with controlled rage. Left her there for 8 years while you built a new life, became wealthy, dated other women. If I tell you everything, Michael said after a long pause, I want Ryan's guarantee in writing. A plea deal, maximum of 15 years. Lisa studied him, contempt evident in her expression. You're still trying to negotiate after what you did? She pulled out her phone. Ryan says he'll talk to the DA, but only if you provide a complete confession and lead them to the exact location in the lake. And time is running out on this offer. Michael paced the kitchen, mind racing. 15 years would be better than life. Maybe less with good behavior. He'd be in his 50s when released, still young enough to have some kind of life. He had money hidden where the authorities wouldn't find it. Enough to start over somewhere. Fine, he said finally. I'll give you what you want. Full confession, the location, everything. Start with the night she disappeared, Lisa instructed, setting her phone to record. Every detail. As Michael recounted the events of that night, memories he'd tried to suppress for 8 years came flooding back. Emma's face as she confronted him, the shock in her eyes when his hands closed around her throat, the terrible stillness afterward. She was smarter than I gave her credit for, he admitted. Always was. She'd methodically gathered evidence for weeks before confronting me. Statements, transfers, communications with offshore entities. I never noticed, too caught up in the success, the money. He remembered their early days together. Emma's laugh, her intelligence, her unwavering support as he built his business. She had loved him once, and he had loved her. Somewhere along the way, that love had been replaced by ambition and greed. "When did it change?" Lisa asked, as if reading his thoughts. "When did you become the kind of man who could kill his wife?" Michael had no answer for that. The transformation had been gradual, then sudden. A compromise here, a justification there, until crossing lines became second nature. "I'll take you to where it happened," Michael offered, seeing an opportunity. "The exact spot on the lake where she's, it would be better than trying to describe it." Lisa looked skeptical. "This isn't a ploy to escape, is it, because Ryan has officers nearby?" "No escape," Michael assured her. "Just closure. For you, for Emma." The words felt strange in his mouth, hollow platitudes he didn't believe but thought might appeal to her sense of sentiment. Lisa made a call to Ryan, speaking in low tones. After a brief conversation, she turned back to Michael. "We'll go to the lake. Ryan will meet us there with officers. One wrong move and the deal is off." Michael nodded his agreement, already formulating a plan. Once at the lake, in the dark, there would be opportunities, confusion, escape routes he knew well from years of living there. If he could just get away, disappear before they found the body. The drive to Evergreen Lake was tense and silent. Lisa drove her own car, with Michael in the passenger seat. His hands weren't restrained. That would come later, after an official arrest. But Lisa had made it clear that Ryan and officers were following at a discreet distance. As they wound through the dark roads leading to the lake, Michael stared out the window at the familiar landscape. The dense pine forests, the glimpses of moonlight on water through the trees, the place where he had once been happy, then destroyed everything. "She was going to leave me, you know," Michael said, breaking the silence, "even before she found the financial documents. Our marriage had been struggling for months." "That's your justification?" Lisa asked incredulously. "She wanted a divorce, so you killed her?" "No, not justification, just context." He turned to look at her profile, so similar to Emma's. "She mentioned you a few times, said you were traveling a lot, studying abroad, said you two weren't close anymore." "We were closer than she let on," Lisa replied. "Emma was protecting me from you. She knew what kind of man you really were long before the end." They arrived at a secluded area of Evergreen Lake, far from the cluster of vacation homes. The moon reflected off the still water, creating an almost ethereal glow. Michael directed Lisa to park at a small clearing near the shoreline. "This is where we used to launch the boat," he explained as they got out of the car. "The deepest part of the lake is about 300 yards out, near that large rock formation." They walked toward the water's edge, gravel crunching under their feet. The night was quiet, except for the occasional call of a night bird and the gentle lapping of water against the shore. "That night, I rowed out to that spot," Michael continued, pointing. "It's about 60 feet deep there. I weighted her body with chains from the boathouse and—" He swallowed hard, the memory more visceral than he'd expected. "She went straight down." In one fluid motion, he suddenly grabbed Lisa's arm and yanked her toward the water's edge. "I could do the same to you," he hissed. "No one would know, history repeating itself." Lisa didn't struggle or scream as he expected. Instead, she smiled coldly. "Is that your plan? Kill me too? Look around, Michael." Flashlights suddenly illuminated the clearing from multiple directions. Detective Ryan stepped forward from the tree line, flanked by uniformed officers. "That's enough, Carter," Ryan called out. "Let her go. It's over." Michael released Lisa's arm, realizing he'd been outplayed completely. There would be no escape, no last-minute reprieve. The trap had been perfectly executed. "Michael Carter," Ryan said formally, approaching with handcuffs. "You're under arrest for the murder of Emma Carter. You have the right to remain silent." As Ryan recited the Miranda rights, Lisa stepped back, watching Michael with a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. Years of planning, of becoming her sister's ghost, had led to this moment. Justice, finally, for Emma. "Was any of it real?" Michael asked suddenly, looking at Lisa. "The disappearing acts? The things moving in the house?" "Some of it," she admitted. "Some was just your guilty conscience. Amazing what the mind can convince itself it's seeing when properly prompted." As the officers led Michael to a waiting police car, Lisa approached him one last time. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. "Something Emma never told you. She suspected your illegal activities months before she confronted you. She didn't just make copies of documents that night. She'd been collecting evidence for weeks, mailing it to me piece by piece." Michael stared at her, the implications sinking in. "Every transaction, every shell company, every illegal deal," Lisa continued, "she documented all of it. She knew you might try to silence her if she confronted you directly. She was preparing for the worst while hoping for the best." "Why are you telling me this now?" Michael asked. "Because I want you to understand how thoroughly you underestimated her, how completely your perfect crime was undone by her foresight." Lisa's eyes, so much like Emma's, held his gaze steadily. "She knew exactly who you were, Michael, and she made sure you would eventually pay for everything." In the interrogation room at the police station, Michael provided a full confession. He detailed the argument, the strangulation, the disposal of Emma's body. He described the exact location in Evergreen Lake where they would find her remains. He admitted to the financial crimes that had been the catalyst for the murder. "She figured it all out," he told Ryan, a note of grudging admiration in his voice. "The money laundering through the tech startups, the kickbacks, the offshore accounts, everything I'd built over years, she unraveled in weeks." "Smart woman," Ryan commented. "Too smart for her own good, maybe." "I never thought she'd really go to the authorities," Michael continued. "Emma was always private, always concerned with appearances. I thought she'd want to handle it quietly, for both our sakes. When she threatened to expose everything, I just snapped." "And the evidence she collected?" Her journal mentioned sending materials to Lisa. Michael nodded wearily. "I never found it. Searched the house top to bottom after that night. Never occurred to me she'd mail it to her sister. Never even knew they were in contact." The search of Evergreen Lake began the next morning. Using the coordinates Michael had provided, dive teams located Emma's remains within hours. The weighted chains had kept her body anchored to the lake bed for 8 years. The medical examiner confirmed what they already knew: strangulation was the cause of death. Lisa watched from the shore as they brought her sister's body to land. The closure she had sought for so long was finally here, but it brought less peace than she had hoped. Nothing could bring Emma back. Nothing could erase the 8 years of grief and obsession. Detective Ryan joined her as the coroner's van drove away. "You did it," he said quietly. "Without you, we might never have solved this case." "It took too long," Lisa replied. 8 years while he lived his life, grew richer, moved on." "But he didn't get away with it," Ryan reminded her. "Thanks to you and your sister. The evidence she collected, your dedication to finding the truth, it all came together." Lisa nodded, watching the ripples on the lake's surface. Somewhere beneath those waters, her sister had lain in darkness for 8 years. But Emma had planned for her own justice, reaching out from beyond death through the evidence she'd hidden and the sister who refused to let her case go cold. Michael's trial was brief. With the overwhelming evidence and his own confession, the defense had little to work with. He received 25 years for the murder of Emma Carter and an additional 12 years for the financial crimes that had led to her death. In the courtroom, Lisa testified about the evidence Emma had sent her, the years of investigation, and the plan to extract a confession. She read excerpts from Emma's journal, bringing her sister's voice into the courtroom one last time. "I know the risks of confronting Michael," Emma had written in her final entry. "If anything happens to me, the truth is in these pages and in the documents I've sent to Lisa. I hope it never comes to that, but I need to be prepared." Those words, written just hours before her death, seemed to hang in the courtroom. Emma had known the danger she faced. She had prepared as best she could, and in the end, her foresight had ensured justice. Michael sat impassively through most of the trial, but flinched visibly when Lisa read those words. He had underestimated Emma in life and continued to underestimate her in death. 1 month after the trial, Lisa visited a small cemetery where a headstone now marked Emma's final resting place. After 8 years in the lake, Emma had finally been given a proper burial. Lisa placed white roses, Emma's favorite, on the grave. "It's done, Em," she said softly. "He'll never hurt anyone else." Detective Ryan arrived a few minutes later, respectfully keeping his distance until Lisa motioned him over. "I wanted to let you know," he said. "The FBI has finished untangling Carter's financial crimes. They've recovered most of the money. As Emma's next of kin, a significant portion will come to you once the legal proceedings are complete." Lisa nodded. "I'll use it to establish a foundation in her name. Something to help women trapped in abusive relationships, to give them the resources to escape before it's too late." Ryan smiled sadly. She would have liked that. As they walked back toward the cemetery gates, Lisa reached into her purse and pulled out a small wooden box. "There's something I've never shown anyone," she said, her voice quiet. "Not even you, during the investigation." Ryan stopped, curiosity evident in his expression. "The night before Emma confronted Michael, she sent me this," Lisa explained. "I only opened it after we arrested him. I couldn't. I wasn't ready before." She opened the box carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter in an envelope marked "For Lisa," open only if necessary. Beside it sat a small silver locket with the sisters' initials engraved on the back. "Her letter confirms everything we already knew," Lisa said, "but there was something else, something I never told the prosecutors because it wasn't relevant to the case." She handed Ryan the letter. The bottom paragraph was underlined. "If you're reading this, the worst has happened, but know that I died trying to do what's right. Michael's crimes go beyond money laundering. In the encrypted files on the USB drive labeled Westbrook, you'll find evidence connecting him to Robert Cassidy, the state senator who was investigated for corruption last year. Michael was funneling money to offshore accounts for several high-profile clients. This goes deeper than just my husband. Be careful who you trust with this information. Start with Detective Ryan. My instincts say he's one of the good ones." Ryan looked up from the letter, his expression grave. "Did you find these files?" Lisa nodded. "They're secured. I made copies. After Michael's conviction, I wasn't sure what to do with them." "Some of those clients may still be in positions of power," Ryan said thoughtfully. "This could explain why certain aspects of the initial investigation into Emma's disappearance were hampered." "That's what I thought too," Lisa replied. "Emma died because she was going to expose more than just Michael. She was going to bring down powerful people." "Why show me this now?" Ryan asked. Lisa closed the box gently. "Because I think it's time to finish what Emma started. All of it. She believed in you. So do I." 2 days later, Lisa and Ryan met in a quiet corner of a nearly empty diner. On the table between them was a laptop displaying files Emma had collected years ago. "These implicate 3 current state officials, a federal judge, and several prominent business leaders," Ryan said quietly, reviewing the material. "Emma was sitting on a bombshell, and it got her killed," Lisa added. "Michael panicked when she threatened to expose him, but it wasn't just about him. He was protecting this entire network." Ryan closed the laptop. "Taking this forward won't be easy. These are powerful people with resources and connections. It could get dangerous." "I know," Lisa said with determination, "but Emma was willing to risk everything for the truth. I owe her the same courage." "We'll need to be strategic," Ryan cautioned. "Build an airtight case before going public. Secure the evidence in multiple locations. Trust no one outside our immediate circle." Lisa's expression hardened with resolve. "Michael took my sister's life, but he doesn't get to bury the truth she died for. Not anymore." As they left the diner, neither noticed the black sedan parked across the street or the camera lens that tracked their movements. The game wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning.